Okay, we are starting.
All right, welcome everyone. I'm going to read this. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law 30A, Section 18, and Governor Healy's March 29, 2023 revised order extending remote participation by all members in any meeting of a public body. This meeting of the Great Barrington Finance Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information on the general guidelines for the remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting may do so in the following manner. Just see the instructions at the top of this agenda. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access proceedings in real time via technological means. Pursuant to MGL 7C 30A, Section 20F, after notifying the chair of the public body, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting of a public body or may transmit the meeting through any medium. At the beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recordings. Do we have any recordings going on?
So I'm recording for the town. I'm also doing a backup recording on my audio recording on my phone.
Okay, thank you. And
Yeah.
any member of the public wishing to speak at the meeting must receive permission of the chair. So I'm going to call to meeting to order with a roll call vote. Anne?
Here.
Lena?
Here.
Donna?
Here.
Philip Ornstein is me, and I'm here as well. Okay, committee member announcements or statements. Anne?
No statement.
Donna?
None.
Lena?
No.
And I don't have any, but I guess I'm just going to use this opportunity to ask if everyone has the calendar of meetings for the budget process for February.
The one that the town
Right.
sent out?
Town sent it out. I sent it out.
Right. I put it in the, I didn't have any scheduling issue.
Are those days confirmed? Because I got something from Mark and he was looking for input, but have we got them confirmed since?
Yeah, they're all confirmed. So
They are confirmed. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
I think if you don't have them, just reach out to me and I'll shoot
Yeah, yeah. I think it must have gotten lost in my emails. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we have on our brief agenda tonight the approval of minutes from September and October of 2023.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of September and October 2023.
We have a second.
Second.
Let's just make a quick check that we can do them all both together.
So Madonna, I have that you weren't at the October meeting. So
Right, I could abstain, but it actually, I can do that, but.
Oh, but when we
But
go
I
to
could
the vote.
still, I can, even if I'm not there, I can still approve.
Yeah,
the
you can
minutes.
approve. Yeah.
Okay. So
You have that motion seconded, right?
Yes, I seconded that. Yeah.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Anne?
I.
Donna?
Aye for both.
Elena?
Aye.
Aye for both as well. Terrific. And can I volunteer you to send them those final
Yep.
copies
Yep.
to
Okay.
Stacy? Although you may need, on the October minutes, I added a copy of our school district merger statement. I don't know if you have that. If you don't.
I do. Yep. I do. Yeah, that was attached. Yep.
So then we're all set. Okay,
Okay.
great. All righty. Next on the agenda is our town accountant budget update, and we have Allison Crespo here for that. So
Hello.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I guess I'll just ask you if you have any questions. I am still working on closing out the fiscal year. There's a few items that I'm working with the auditors to get all cleaned up to try to make sure that 24 is nice and clean. So right now, I'm in the midst of 3 fiscal years right now, so it's a little confusing, but it's okay. It's been 4.
Now, you're obviously being very diligent and careful about closing out fiscal 23, right?
Yeah, I have one accountant. Then there was a break, then there was another accountant, then there was a little bit of a break, then there was me, and I was focusing mostly on budget. So there's, you know, three maybe different philosophies and ways of doing. So I'm trying to tie it all together to finalize it up.
Okay, all right. No, I have no doubt you're being very careful and rigorous. It's taking a bit longer than it has in prior years, but that sounds like there's a reason for that, which I certainly understand.
For sure. And I do anticipate having that all cleaned up and the free cash submitted for approval. So we have all that information for budget time. So no worries there.
No,
Okay.
never a doubt on that one.
All right. Allison, I do have a couple questions still. Do you mind if I jump in?
Go ahead, please go ahead. Yeah.
So, I did notice that there were, more than a few, not a lot, but more than a few budget lines that, are already over 100%. Many of those were budget lines where there were, encumbrances. So they're not over budget yet, but with the anticipated encumbrances, they are. And I guess I'm a little, so how does this work? So encumbrances, they submit POs for expenses that they anticipate. But so now we know, or we're anticipating being over in those budget lines. Is that correct?
And that's why you'll notice when I sent these out to you folks, I also sent department heads so they could review their budgets. And I received a number of transfers within their line items, operating budgets to make those corrections. And of course, snow and ice is going to be in a deficit as it can be.
Okay, so, and right, I know that snow and ice is in a big deficit, but we can get state help with that. If you can remind me, how does that work?
If they already purchased a lot of their supplies, so even though we haven't had a lot of the winter weather yet, we've purchased a lot of the supplies so that they're prepared. So I think you'll find that the actual calorie line isn't like too bad, but the actual snow and ice is.
Right. So my thing that's popped out to me is we have a snow and ice overage, and we haven't had any snow and ice yet in this particular fiscal year. Right?
Yeah.
So you're just saying that they're ordering their materials and they're all much more expensive and blowing through.
It's much more expensive.
Incredibly. Mm-hmm.
But Allison, you said that's not to worry. And just, I'm trying to remember, how do we handle the overage in that budget line?
So when there's the snow and ice line, there's a deficit. We can raise it on the tax rate recap, which is what we did this previous fiscal year. Ended in a deficit of, I want to say 100,000, 105,000. So if you look on the tax rate recap, page 2, I believe it's number 929 on page 2 is the snow and ice deficit. So it's raised on the taxes. So even though it's on the taxes, as you saw, the tax rate went down. So
maybe to recharacterize it a bit, it sounds like there's an accounting mechanism to pay for it, but I wouldn't say it's not a problem and that the taxpayers are paying for it, right?
Yeah, it's a very common thing with all the cities and towns that we overexpend, because if we raise that budget up, then we lose. If we don't meet that, then we lose that ability to raise it on the taxes. So we have to find a way within that budget to make it up. So
I'm a little bit confused. Sorry, what do you mean by raising it on the taxes? I mean, what does it really mean?
It's just how can I explain it? It's like overlay, like for the abatements, how we raise it with the taxes. So we take the budgeted amount for FY24 plus these couple of items that maybe weren't included in the budget, any deficits, over potential, and that's what's added. And then there's another total. That's what the tax rate is based on.
I'm still not really clear. Are you saying that you are going to be raising it in the future, or are you sourcing? I don't understand where you are funding it from.
The FY23 ended the year deficit, so that was on or tax rate recap. So every year, what you do is you take your previous year, if there's a deficit, if you're able to do year-end transfers and move around money that would have thus been turned back to free cash. It's kind of 6 to 1, half dozen to another. because it's from the same place, essentially.
So
So-
we're allowed to take, if, let's say there was 100,000 left in the budget line for snow and ice last year, we can take that 100,000 and use it for this year for snow and ice. Am I
No.
reading?
Goes out to free cash, and
Yeah.
then we needed to do a vote from free cash, we could do that. But typically what towns do, cities and towns do, is raise it on the taxes. That's why there is that mechanism. There's a mechanism for tax titles as well, for recording fees and filing fees.
Is this all part of the magic of the fact that the tax rates for the first half of the year are always viewed as estimated tax rates as opposed to definitive tax rates?
Oh,
I see,
Exactly.
okay.
Yep. So the preliminary is a tax estimate based on last year's taxes. We do the actuals at this time of year, once the tax rate is passed. And then we make up the difference in that second bill.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're basically, you're gonna make it whole at the end of the fiscal year through the additional, whatever, increase in the mill rate or whatever, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Not to confuse you even more, but basically the way it works is that I take the funds from the undesignated account, which essentially is free cash, to fill the deficit because we've raised it on the taxes. And then it closes out for the next year. So it just reduces the free cash by that.
But you are taking it from the free cash account.
Not directly. It's out of undesignated. So it's not free cash yet because it has not been approved and certified by DOR.
Right.
I would say
Eventually
to
it will come from
the non-accounting professional, it essentially is coming out of the free cash, which is
Out of free cash, yeah, okay. Yeah.
so
Okay, I just
we
was
won't
not
make
really-
you say that, Allison, but I think that's kind of what's
Yeah,
happening.
okay, thanks.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
no, okay, I understand, and can I just ask, so will there be a revised budget amount in the snow and ice supplies budget line, or no, we'll just go over?
No, we'll go over just like we did last year in FY23.
Okay, yeah, I remember, this is not new, and I just couldn't remember the mechanism for how we manage it. I know this is just someplace where everyone goes over. I guess I did want to say we are already, so Allison, I guess when you come in January, maybe we'll look at some of the lines that were over 100% now and see the adjustments that the various department heads made to manage that. Is that correct? Okay, so we'll just keep this on file.
Mhm.
So, okay, that I can manage that. So, and again, trash removal is another one. Is that a similar situation or, yeah?
We did have sort of one of the I don't know if I've ever seen anything like this before. We have the page 5, the trash removal for the public buildings is 251%
Well, that's
utilized.
what I was mentioning, yeah.
So is that something that you could help us understand a bit, Allison?
You're at
It's
Oh,
on
I
page 5, yeah.
Yeah, page
Okay.
5.
I do know that Joe is planning on kind of revamping things a little bit and putting some of the stuff that are buildings into the buildings line item. So I wonder if that's what he's working on. I do have it out to him though, so that he can give me an idea. At the end of the day, as long as that available budget, you see the 386,000, as long as that's not in a deficit, it's okay. We just have to work with it. There's also a potential that there's an over encumbrance. Something was paid without the purchase order, so it didn't hit the purchase order, so the encumbrance needs to be reduced, or the potential that something was paid from the wrong line item that we just have to make a correction. That's kind of why I like to, after we've balanced for the month, so that I can give you a more definitive, cleaned up version.
Okay, I understand.
Okay.
That was
And should we be concerned about elderly transportation or because I remember during the budget season, we talked about this. I think, was there a grant that they were going to be getting or something?
And there's also transit that is
Yeah.
all. So I do believe that there's some corrections that need to be made to a few payrolls that maybe got paid out of Council on Aging, should have gone to micro. So again, things cleaned up.
Okay, so we'll come back to these in January, hopefully.
Sure.
And
Okay.
then we haven't paid much of our interest on page 11. We haven't paid much of our interest or debt yet, and that's just typical for this time of year.
Yeah, you pay debt twice a year. So pay a principal and interest, and then you pay just a principal. So that's what that's all about.
So we'll
So
see a lot more in January again. Yep. Okay.
Allison, I had just a couple questions when I was going through the list. The emergency management, they've used up 72% of their budget for the year, and parks 75.6.
Okay, so
Am I reading it incorrectly?
management.
What page are you on?
Yeah.
I'm not, because
Oh.
I'd have to
Okay.
refigure out.
7 at the top. We're talking about the communications emergency management, and it appears as though it's 72.2% used. However, do remember that the encumbrances are included in that.
Oh, okay.
I do believe, let's see, salaries, equipment maintenance, contractual services. So I believe there's some yearly type subscription type things in that budget that have already been paid for the year. So you won't see more of that one particular vendor being paid.
Okay.
It goes forth. Now the parks, let's see, let me get to that one. Sorry, bear with me just a second. It's very, very small.
Parks on page 10.
Yes, thank you.
No
Parks
problem.
10. Okay, so yes, that's 75.6% used to date, but again, that is including the encumbrances.
Okay.
And also, I think, isn't that also the youth programming? Doesn't that front load in the summer, I think?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I noticed that a lot of, almost, I mean, with a little variation, everybody seems to be like spending just about half, a little above, a little below, which is good. I think people are being very, very prudent.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have.
Average,
you.
if you higher sheet, it's 46.5. If you look at page 11, the last page. So we're about normally would be overall.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Not a very exciting one, but like it seems like I'm looking at page 1 of the wastewater, and on the bottom there you have that that negative budget on workers' comp. If I remember correctly, there's always you guys some of the employees, there's sort of a intertown accounting handling some of these items between the town and the wastewater entity.
Yes, with mm-hmm.
Okay.
So they get cleaned up in the next, probably in the next month, I would imagine. Mm-hmm.
Good. Okay. Well, again, this is when you kind of get to sort of normal operations with our committee, we obviously this is sort of what we usually we're used to seeing this in our packets when we meet. So we're getting back to normalized operations with you. And so but it sounds like you're very much in the swing of things and get your
Get it
hands.
out. You don't have to ask for it.
Yeah.
That'd
Okay.
be great. All right, thank you.
Perfect. Okay. This has been helpful, and we'll see much more to follow in our budget process. We'll get all this. We'll get more than enough numbers to look at.
Yes.
Okay. And then we move to our favorite budget policy document. And I'm going to volunteer Anne to recap
Yeah, I'm happy to do so. And I did,
what we're doing here.
yeah, I mean, so I looked through this again, and I just want to remind everyone that last year, we did a pretty significant review and discussion and meeting with the select board to look at this policy. Mostly what we did last year was make it more consistent with what we, as much as possible, with what we actually do. Tried to sort of just tighten up some of the wording, and probably the biggest change was that the very last section town budget format, and point number 3, other information reports. And this was just something, and just for those who are newer on the committee, we highlighted here documents that we might need. These aren't ones that we will necessarily ask for, but if during the budget season, we find that that might be helpful. These are just some things for members of the finance committee to be aware, are some reports that could be, with giving Allison adequate time to pull them together, that could be requested. So I will say I would like to make a motion that we not tweak the policy again this year, given our substantial work on this last year, and send this forward to the select board as for fiscal year 2025, keeping the policy as we had it last year. That's
Before we do that, can I just ask a question here?
Yeah.
I'm just was reading the draft, and I know there is a reference to the master plan.
correct.
When was the master plan put together? Do you know?
I think that was 2019. If,
2000, it's,
Yep.
it's somehow recent. Okay, cool.
Yep.
All right.
I think it was a little, I think it was
Someone
a
mentioned
little,
it was
a little
like
older than that. Yeah, I think it's,
Even
Older, right? That's what I heard. Yeah.
I'm trying to
I
hold
would,
on.
I looked at it recently and I thought it was 2014. But
Oh, okay.
Yes,
I looked at it
because-
recently too, but I could be misremembering. Let's see.
Okay, thanks, Phil, because I heard, that's what I heard. And so
Oh,
my
I'm
question
sorry.
is 2013, that seems somehow outdated, frankly. And so, and I don't know, who is the driving force behind a master plan for Great Barrington, but is there a plan to review it, see whether it's still relevant and valid?
I just want to, I also reread the master plan, and I'm sorry, I don't know where I got 2019 from. It
it's
is-
okay, Ann. It's
Yeah.
okay.
But it's, even though it was 2019, things have changed since COVID, I was wondering about that. I mean, I do think some things have changed. I mean, I'll be honest, I think the select board recently did go through their lists of priorities, and maybe we could look at the minutes from that meeting and see where they came to. I will admit I didn't attend that meeting. So I do think as we go into budget season, perhaps talking with the select board about how do they see any changes to the priorities, what are new, but it might behoove any of us to watch the recording or look at their minutes. I don't think you should, I wouldn't say to revise a master plan every 10 years, because that, to me, it's a lot of work to do a master plan.
No, I understand, but you cannot have, if we say the priorities are driven by a document that's 10 years old, I just don't feel comfortable with that, frankly.
Well, I think it's worth looking at it and maybe thinking about I don't know if you've had a chance. It's up on the town website. But I did look through it. Many of the priorities seem pretty similar. Housing was an issue in 2013. Efforts to maintain green spaces and communities was a priority in 2013. So I guess it would be interesting to see if the select board thinks the master plan is still where they feel it should be. So I do think,
It's a pretty major undertaking.
No, I understand that. But all what I'm saying is that we are referring to a document that I don't know, and I haven't looked at that plan, so I would have to look at it, that I'm just questioning whether it's still valid. That's all, really. I'm not
Yeah,
suggesting.
I did spend some time with it recently. I think again, I hear your point, Milena.
Yeah.
What I would say is I spent some time with it. It doesn't scream being out of date.
Okay.
And I think the things that are need a little more refining, that popped out a bit are a lot of sort of, all the tricky zoning issues, that definitely are evolving for an array of reasons, short-term
Okay.
rentals and housing is getting more of a focus these days. So those are things that maybe needed to be updated a bit, but it wasn't
Oh.
like there were things in there that were
Okay.
inconsistent with the, sort of the general themes that we follow.
I mean, that was just a question on my part. I just wanted to understand that. So thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Milena, it's worth your point. I mean, in my mind, I had 2019, and even I thought, okay, I mean, COVID changed some things, as we all know. I looked at the population in the census for 2020 after the report was done, and the population went up about 100 from the prior population census, but it may have gone up significantly since
Right. I
then.
mean, things have changed definitely
Right,
here.
yeah,
Yeah. And you may
I mean-
also have very different demographics here,
Right, right.
people looking for different things. So that's kind
yeah.
of what to be expected. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But since I haven't seen it, you guys read through it and you feel it's still valid. I think that kind of answers my question. Yeah.
Elaine, it's a really big PDF, but if I can, I'll try to send it to you, big
Oh, that would
meaning
be awesome.
file
Yeah.
size, but if I can send it to you, I will.
Okay,
That
great.
was
Thank
kind of
you.
handy. Yeah.
Yeah, I would, no, so yeah, and it is an interesting thing to read, but you should take a look at it and see what you think. But
do
yeah,
have
so
a-
I think we put a lot of time into this last year, and I think it's still in decent shape. And frankly, this just goes in the back of the budget binder, and it's not a particularly there's not a lot of teeth to it, frankly, in my opinion. But it's a helpful guide for some and tries to sort of focus our work.
We do refer back to it occasionally, yeah. So when there are debates.
Yeah, very often on the losing side of the debate is my.
I do have someone in the audience with a hand raised. If anybody in the committee wants to speak beforehand, just want to make sure the committee gets to talk first. Hold on, let me just allow to talk. I think. Oh, is that Eileen?
Yeah,
Okay.
the master plan is being reviewed by the planning board,
Oh,
which
okay.
is meeting, I think, January 8th with
Oh,
the
interesting.
selectmen to discuss the process, but the various, planning board members have been reaching out to different boards in town that have a place in the plan to talk to them about what's been implemented, what needs, and so forth, get their feedback. That process has been ongoing for a couple of months.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So January 8th.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Darlene. Okay, so do we have a motion?
I think I made a motion.
You made
Okay.
motion, yes.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table to approve this budget policy and send it over to the select board for their approval.
Second.
Roll call vote. Anne,
Aye.
Elena,
Hi.
Donna? You're on mute. I think you're an aye. Aye. Thumbs up. Okay, great. And I'm an aye as well. All right, so I will volunteer myself to send this to Mark, I guess, and Steve, and say we have approved this, and they can proceed with it as they wish. And I think that's our agenda. One thing I forgot to mention up on the top is I just wanted to state that there's obviously been some statements by the select board about Houstonic Waterworks and next steps there. I just wanted to mention that this committee is not, all we know is sort of what was in that statement in the public meeting. So we don't know anything in addition to that. But sounds like sometime soon, maybe we'll hear some more. But I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, I also wanted to mention one thing, and this is, I think that from what I've seen, the the select board meeting in Alfred was discussing the issue with the volunteer ambulance organization, whatever, I don't know what's the proper term for it. And the fact that I guess that their costs continue to rise. But the particular select board did also express their frustration. And I think we talked about it a little bit at the last budget meeting with the fact that they don't provide any, useful or insightful information into their financials. So I'm just kind of like throwing it out there because obviously they will be coming to us during the budget review process, looking for more money.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good observation. What I'll add to that is I did speak with Mark on that point, and I just said that we eagerly await the presentation from the ambulance organization about how
Right,
things.
yeah.
So I share that view that we do need to see reporting, because we're obviously talking about big dollars. And,
Right. It's a pretty substantial increase. I think they were talking about maybe like 40% increase. Yeah.
right.
Mhm, mhm.
Hey, any citizen speak time? Any other persons in our audience who would like to say
We
something?
do have two people in the audience, so let's give them a moment if they'd like to raise their hand if they'd like to.
Great.
No obligation. but-
All right.
Okay.
Okay. And any other media time?
I do want to say when I removed Eileen from being for speaking, she got dropped off, so I just want to give a second in case she's trying to get on. I don't know if that was her choice or if I did something, so just give her a minute to try to log back on, but she hasn't logged back on yet.
She did mention to me beforehand that she might leave early.
Oh, okay. All right.
Probably
Okay.
it.
All right.
So that's media time. So I think unless anyone else has something they want to say, we are ready for a record adjournment.
Yep, that sounds great.
I'll say by
I'm sorry, I.
a motion to adjourn.
Okay, all right.
Second.
And
Aye.
thank,
Allison,
Aye.
thank you very much. We'll see you
thank
soon.
you, Allison.
Thank
and-
you, Allison.
Holiday, by the way, everybody.
Happy
All right,
holidays.
all right, have a good, see you in.